At a family reunion, my girlfriend's cousin asked when we were getting married. She laughed and said, "When my real options run out." Everyone chuckled. I just stood and left. 2 weeks later, she realized options run out fast. Family reunions are a special kind of hell. You spend a whole day making small talk with people you barely know, eating questionable potato salad, and pretending you're thrilled to be there. For me, last Saturday's reunion for my girlfriend's family wasn't just hell. It was the place my relationship went to die, and I was the one who pulled the plug. Let me set the scene. I'm Mark, 38. I own a logistics company. My girlfriend Sarah, who is 31, is all about the opposite. Her life is a series of emotional whims, social climbing, and a constant, desperate need for validation. For 3 years, I thought her chaos was exciting. Now, I see it for what it is, a giant, flapping red flag. The problem wasn't just her personality, it was her family. They're old money, and they've never let me forget that I'm not. I'm a guy who started his company with a single van and a lot of debt. They're people who have never worked a real day in their lives. To them, I was a novelty. The working man, their precious Sarah, was slumming it with. The disrespect was usually subtle. A condescending comment about my truck. A backhanded compliment about how articulate I was for a guy who didn't go to an Ivy League school. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it didn't matter what these pampered snobs thought, but it was a slow poison, and Sarah was the one letting them administer it. The moment I knew I had to prepare for the end was about 6 months ago. We were at a charity gala her parents had dragged us to. I was talking to one of her father's business associates, a decent guy, about the challenges of supply chain management. Her father walked up, put his arm around me, and said with a booming laugh, "Don't let Mark fool you with his big words. He's just a glorified delivery boy." The associate laughed uncomfortably. I just looked at my half-eaten shrimp puff. Later that night, I saw Sarah laughing with her father as he retold the story to another group. That was it. That was the night I opened a new folder on my computer labeled Exit Strategy. Which brings us to the reunion. It was at her aunt's massive lake house. Dozens of people I didn't know, all with the same last name and the same smug, superior look on their faces. I was doing my best to be a good sport. But after 3 hours of talking about boat maintenance and the stock market, I was about ready to fake a heart attack to get out of there. Sarah had abandoned me within minutes of arriving, leaving me to fend for myself while she flitted between groups of her cousins, soaking up their attention. I was standing by the barbecue trying to look interested in a conversation about golf with her uncle when I saw her cousin, a loud, obnoxious girl named Brittany. Corner Sarah, Brittany has always had it in for me. I think she sees me as a threat to their little blue-blooded bubble. I couldn't hear the whole conversation, but I heard the important part. Brittany, in a voice loud enough for the whole patio to hear, asked, "So, Sarah, when is Mark finally going to make an honest woman out of you? When are you two getting married?" Sarah laughed. It was a high, tinkling sound, the one she uses when she's trying to be cute and dismissive at the same time. She looked around at the circle of her family members who were listening. Then she looked right at me and smirked. "Oh, Brittany, don't be silly," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "We'll get married when my real options run out." The whole group chuckled. Her aunts, her cousins, even her dad cracked a smile. It was a joke, you see, a hilarious little jab at the guy who wasn't quite good enough, the guy who was just a placeholder until someone better came along. And in that moment, something inside me just went quiet. It wasn't anger. It wasn't hurt. It was the cold, hard click of a final decision being made. I had been a fool. I had been putting up with their condescension, their insults, their barely veiled contempt, all for a woman who saw me as her last resort. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her smiling face, at her family who were all laughing at my expense. I just stood there for a second, making eye contact with each of them. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't run. I didn't storm off. I just walked at a calm, deliberate pace through the party, out the front door, and to my truck. I got in, started the engine, and drove away. I didn't look back. I was done. Update 1. The drive home was 2 hours of pure, unadulterated silence. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't make any calls. I just drove. And with every mile that passed, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders that I didn't even realize I had been carrying. the weight of trying to be good enough for people who had already decided I wasn't. I got back to my house, which she had moved into a year ago but was still legally and financially all mine. Around 8, the first thing I did was walk to my home office and open the exit strategy file. I had already consulted a lawyer. I had already opened separate bank accounts. I had been preparing for this day, hoping it would never come. But knowing deep down that it was inevitable, my phone started blowing up about an hour after I got home. Her mother, her cousins, a storm of texts and missed calls. "Where are you? What's wrong? You just left." That was so rude. I ignored them all. I just started executing the plan. First, the locks. I had a new high-security system installed a few months back. I told her it was for our safety. In reality, it was so I could change all the access codes and deactivate her key fob from my phone in under 30 seconds, which I did. The perimeter was secure. Next, her belongings. I wasn't just going to pack them in boxes. That was too easy, too clean. I wanted to make a statement about how I was no longer going to be her safety net, her last resort. I went online and found the number for a local charity that does furniture and clothing pickups for women's shelters. I called them. I told the woman on the phone that I had a massive high-end donation, a whole house worth of women's clothing, furniture, and personal items. I mentioned some of the designer brands I knew Sarah owned. The woman was almost speechless. They were used to getting old used things. This was a windfall. They said they could have a truck at my house at 9:20 a.m. the next morning. Perfect. The only things I set aside were her personal documents, her passport, her birth certificate, and a few sentimental items from her childhood that I knew she couldn't replace. I packed those in a small box. Everything else was fair game. The bed she slept in, the desk she worked at, the clothes she wore, all of it. At around midnight, I sent a single text to her father. He was the one who'd chuckled the loudest at her joke. "Sir," the text read, "I am writing to inform you that my relationship with your daughter is over." Her comment at the reunion today made her position on our future quite clear. As such, I have taken the liberty of donating all of her belongings that were in my home to a local charity. They will be picked up in the morning. I have, however, set aside a box of her personal documents and keepsakes. Your daughter can arrange to pick this box up from my office tomorrow afternoon. Please do not attempt to contact me further. I hit send. Then, I blocked his number and every other number in her family that I had. I turned off my phone, poured myself a very large glass of whiskey, and sat on my back deck enjoying the silence of my own home for the first time in a long, long time. Update 2. The next morning, the charity truck arrived at 9 on the dot. It took the 3 guys who came with it over an hour to load everything. The closets, the dressers, the guest room she had turned into her personal office, all of it gone. The house felt empty, but in a good way, like it had been scrubbed clean. The real fireworks started around noon. My phone, which I had finally turned back on, was a smoldering crater of angry voicemails and texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Her friends, apparently. I deleted them all without listening. The confrontation I knew was coming. Around 2:00, my doorbell camera pinged. It was Sarah, and she was not happy. She was with her cousin Brittany, the instigator of the whole incident. I opened the door, but left the security chain on. "Mark, what the hell's going on?" Sarah screamed. "My father said you gave all my things away." "Is that a joke?" "No joke," I said calmly. "I figured since you're in the market for new options, you'd want a fresh start. I just helped you along." Brittany stepped forward, her face a mask of outrage. "You are a monster. She loved you. She was going to marry you." "No," I corrected her. "She was going to marry me when her real options that ran out. I just decided to take myself out of the running for last place. It's a respectable move. It's called forfeiting the race." Sarah started crying, then big theatrical tears. "But my clothes, my furniture, that was all expensive stuff. My grandmother's antique vanity." "I know," I said. "And I'm sure a woman who has nothing will be very grateful for your grandmother's vanity. Think of it as a good deed, a way to cleanse your soul." "I'm calling the police," she shrieked. "You stole my property." "Go ahead," I said, "and I will show them the text message I have from your father acknowledging that I was giving you the opportunity to retrieve your personal documents." I will also be happy to provide them with a list of the dozen or so family members who were witness to your public declaration that our relationship was a joke and that I was your last resort. It's called establishing motive. Sarah, I don't think you want to go down that road. She knew she was beaten. Her tears turned to rage. You will regret this, Mark. My father will ruin you. Your father can't touch me, I said. I built my business from the ground up with my own 2 hands. I don't have a trust fund to fall back on. I have something better. Self-respect. You should try it sometime. I closed the door and locked it. The last thing I heard was her screaming my name. It was the sound of an option that had just officially run out. Final update. It has been 6 months. The legal threats from her father, as I predicted, never materialized. He's a bully, but he's not a stupid one. He knew that a public lawsuit would just air his family's dirty laundry for the world to see. The smear campaign they tried to launch, however, was a different story. It was a coordinated effort led by Brittany and Sarah's other cousins. The narrative was that I was a volatile, insecure man who couldn't take a joke. They said I had a breakdown, Cree donated all of Sarah's things out of spite, and that she was lucky to have escaped me. For a few weeks, I just ignored it. I didn't care what they thought. But then it started to affect my business. One of Sarah's uncles, a guy with a lot of connections in the city, started spreading rumors. I lost a couple of potential clients because of it. That's when I knew I had to fight back. I didn't do it publicly. I did it my way with logistics. I hired a private investigator, a good one. I gave him one target, Brittany. I had a hunch that the loudest mouth was probably hiding the most secrets. It took him a week, and what he found was pure gold. Brittany, the perfect little socialite, was having an affair with a married man. A very prominent, very wealthy, and very married man who happened to be one of her father's biggest business rivals. She was also using a company credit card from her cushy do-nothing job at her father's company to pay for their hotel rooms and expensive dinners. I put it all together in a neat little file. The hotel receipts, the text messages, the photos. Then I sent it in a plain manila envelope to Brittany's father. There was no note. There didn't need to be. The smear campaign stopped overnight. The rumors about me vanished. Brittany's social media went dark. I heard from a friend that her father had completely cut her off and that her secret boyfriend's wife had filed for a very messy, very public divorce. Sarah's life, from what I've heard, has been a series of hard landings. Without me to pay her bills and provide a comfortable home, she had to move back in with her parents. The shame of that for someone so obsessed with appearances must have been excruciating. She had to get a real job, and she is apparently terrible at it. The world, it turns out, is not as impressed with her as she is with herself. Her family, the ones who chuckled at her cruel joke, have also faced a quiet kind of fallout. The story of what happened at the reunion, followed by the scandal with Brittany, has apparently made them social pariahs in their own circle. It's hard to maintain a reputation for class and dignity when everyone knows you're a bunch of backstabbing, arrogant bullies. I saw her once a few weeks ago. I was at one of my restaurants having dinner with my new girlfriend, a woman who is my partner, not my charity case. Sarah walked in with a group of her friends. She saw me. Our eyes met. The look on her face was a mixture of shock, anger, and something else. Regret. She and her friends turned around and walked right back out. The ultimate revenge wasn't about the donated clothes or the locked door. It was about forcing them to live in the world they had created for themselves. A world where I was not an option at all. She saw our relationship as a safety net, a last resort she could fall back on when her better options didn't pan out. All I did was remove the net. I let her fall, and from what I hear, she's still falling. She wanted to wait until her options ran out. I just sped up the process, and in doing so, I opened up a world of new, better options for myself, and I haven't looked back.